Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're tuning in and whenever you're tuning in, everybody. It's Rod with Powell Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth. We're going to get started here in about 30 seconds to a minute. Mr. Mankey, hey, how you doing? Thanks for joining the live stream. I see we have quite a few people joining. Welcome, welcome. While people are rolling in, make sure to smash the like, share the video with anybody that can jump on last minute. We're going to have an interesting conversation, and I wanted to come on, do a live stream and get everybody's thoughts and opinions, but one of the questions I had as well after I uploaded the previous video was, are the shares of the new shares of Canopy, are they going to trade on the Nasdaq? So we're going to discuss all that and more. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the live chat, or if you're viewing this after the fact, let me know in the comments section below. But this is why we need more Powell Group interviews, right? We get David Klein and Canopy on Bloomberg, and they just, they play t-ball. They set them up with these softball questions, and no one asks them any questions that we want to actually know, right? It's kind of, anyways, I this is why I want to do more interviews, because I ask the difficult questions, and I for sure would have been asking them all of these questions. So more interviews coming soon. But just sit tight. We'll get started in about 15 seconds or so. Also, let us know where you're tuning in from. What up, Easton? Thanks for joining the stream. I see we have quite a few people joining, so we have quite a bit of people so far. We have close to a couple dozen, so we'll get started here momentarily. All right, tons of people on. It was a last minute live stream. I was just gonna do a video and upload it after, but I thought, what a great idea to come on, do a live stream and get everybody's thoughts and opinions, because I'm by no means an expert when it comes to capital share structure and exchangeable shares. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm more of the technical side and fundamental side when it comes to the corporate side and the whole structure with regards to different class of shares. This is all really new for me, and I'm aware of it, right? Like Google, Alphabet has different class of shares, right? But when it pertains to the MJ space, we just don't really know, because there's so many regulations, right? And it's still not federally legal in the US. It's still a Schedule I drug, right? So it's going to be interesting. I think we basically are just going to have to wait and see, but I'll give my thoughts and opinions, and let me know your thoughts and opinions in the live chat or in the comment section. Like I said, if you're joining this video after the fact, but let us know where you're tuning in from as well. It's Rod with Powell Group. Thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Also home to the best MJ community. Today is Sunday, April 7th. I hope you're doing well and hope you had a great weekend. And in this video, we're going to be discussing, after the video that I just uploaded with regards to explaining, exchangeable shares and Canopy USA, one of the questions I got was, will the new shares trade on the Nasdaq? And my initial thought was no, but perhaps based on everything that they're looking to do and, trying to keep the Nasdaq happy and the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, happy, maybe they will permit them to trade on the Nasdaq. And this is going to be interesting too, right? Because this is going to pave the way for other Canadian producers to potentially do the same thing, right? Create a holdings company, an LLC, and then follow in the footsteps of Canopy while we await federal legalization in the US. So we're going to discuss this topic and more. I'll give my thoughts and opinions. As always, not financial advice, though. You should do your own research. And full disclosure, I do own Canopy in my portfolio. And before we get to it, make sure to smash like. Help support me in the channel. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell. You'll be notified on any future live streams such as this, and anytime I post a new video. You can also follow us over on X, formerly Twitter. The handle for that is @GroupPow. Going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. And if you go to the YouTube channel, click on the community tab, scroll down, I'm giving away a $150 annual gold membership to the Powell Group private chat community, which is this community here built on Slack, and we've got close to 50 members in there. And you can kind of bounce ideas around off of each other before you hit the buy or sell button. But obviously, we're not financial advice. I'll be doing the giveaway on April 20th in celebration of 420, Germany going legal, and Florida on the ballot. So you can potentially join the best MJ community in the world. And then this is the video I posted yesterday. Canopy Growth USA Holdings Company and exchangeable shares explained simply. So a lot of people thought this was going to be dilution. I don't think it's going to be dilution, right? Because you're going to exchange your shares one for one. So if you have a regular common share of Canopy Growth and you get an exchangeable share, you're going to exchange that one for one. Therefore, there shouldn't be any dilution, right? It's the same number of shares. It's just the only thing that changes is the the type of share, and the type of share would be non-voting rights, right? So that's the difference there. Hopefully that clears that up. But then I had a lot of people explaining, oh, well, how are we going to change? Like, how's it going to actually get exchanged? So I was doing some research on that as well. I'll give my thoughts and opinions, and then some information that I found. But essentially, Canopy should have something on their website, and then you'll be able to go through the transfer agent, which would more than likely be your broker. But more details will likely come on this soon. And as I mentioned in this video, Constellation Brands has already said they're intending to convert their shares into exchangeable shares. They'd have to get rid of warrants and remove from the board and everything like that, right? They wouldn't be able to have any kind of voting rights. So it looks like they're going to do that. So, that pretty much is all I need to know. If Constellation Brands, do we think we're smarter than, everybody always says, Canopy Growth is garbage, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, Constellation Brands put their money where their mouth is, and they're pretty confident in Canopy Growth. Like, what do these retail investors know that this multi-$100 billion company doesn't know, right? Like, it seems like it's funny because retail investors think they're smarter than Constellation Brands, the maker of Corona, right? So there's obviously something here, and the stock has been exploding. And it's also with regards to the excise taxes switching to a percentage fee potentially here in Canada, store cap doubling in Canada, in Ontario from 75 to 150, Germany going legal. Canopy has a number 3 medical market share. And then Pillar 2 will be massive for Germany as well, double the population of Canada. And, the rest of the EU, 400 plus million people. Just dominoes starting to fall, right? So another thing, everybody was asking, well, how's the new shares going to change? Trade? Is it going to be on the Nasdaq exchange? Initially, I didn't think so, but maybe. I don't know. To be honest, I really don't know. And I'm not going to pretend like I do. If I don't know something, I'll be completely transparent and honest with you folks and truthful, because the truth ultimately will set us free. And, I'm not trying to be some fake guru that I'm not. I stay in my lane. I'm very good at the technicals. I'm very good at the fundamentals. And, I'm not so much the looking at the books or the actual numbers of a report. Like, that's something I've always been, that's not my forte. Like, I used to hate accounting in school. So, it's not what I enjoy. I almost fall asleep reading some of these companies' reports, but, with MJ, it's so exciting and, at least keeps you on the edge of your seat. But, I'll be completely honest with you. That's not my strong suit. So, but what I'm good at as well is looking at a company and looking at an industry and seeing the growth trajectory and where we're going and how early we are and how much, what the growth catalysts are and what to expect in terms of growth, right? Like, I was looking at Tesla in 2018 when no one wanted to buy that. Wall Street was saying, oh, Toyota makes more cars in a month than Tesla makes in a year. Now, Tesla's worth more than every other automaker combined, right? And then Bitcoin, I bought it in 2017 at 3,000. Like, I can see the future and almost try to, put myself in the eyes of a market maker. That's what I'm good at, is thinking like a market maker, right? Thinking like these Wall Street crooks. But this was the post that I made on X following up to that video here. I said, following up, perhaps Canopy USA is a private company. I'm not entirely sure on that, but private would make the most sense to me since it cannot be listed on a US major exchange, maybe a type of SPV. And a special purpose vehicle is a subsidiary created by a parent company to isolate financial risk. And as you know, we've been hearing this. If you remember Hexo and Sebastian St. Louis, he said that they were going to be bringing products to the USA through a special purpose vehicle, whereby they wouldn't own any direct assets. It'd be through a third party or some sort of SPV, and they would report on an equity basis. Think of Truss, right? Before Tilray bought Truss from Molson Coors, and before Tilray Hexo merged with Tilray, and they acquired them. Remember when Hexo was reporting, they were reporting on an equity basis, right? Because at one point, they didn't own the majority stake in that, but then they had, they had the license or whatever. So a lot of the beverages went on theirs, and then Truss got its own license. So they reported on an equity basis. So it's something similar, but a little different. But I think it's going to be some sort of special purpose vehicle. And I think Canopy USA will be a private company, a private holdings company, LLC. And then they'll just report on an equity basis. So essentially, it's going to separate the U.S. assets. So, TerraSand, their investment in TerraSand, I think it was like 17 or 18%, but then I seen something saying it was like 13.8% or 14%. Regardless, it's somewhere around that 13 to 18%. So they have TerraSand, they have Jetty, they have Wana, they have Acreage. So essentially, all those U.S. assets will be under the Canopy USA Holdings Company, LLC, more than likely that private company structure, like I said. And then Canopy Growth will be all the other non-US assets, right? So Canopy Growth will report all of the Canadian assets and everything else, whereas Canopy USA will be all of the US assets, right? So they'll deconsolidate all of those financials. There'll be two separate entities. And then Canopy Growth will report on an equity basis for the Canopy USA, right? So that's dumbing it down as best I can. I think hopefully that makes sense. And then, like I said, this SPV, how's it going to change? How are we going to, like, where are the shares going to change? What does everybody else think? I initially thought, it couldn't be listed on a U.S. major exchange, but maybe because of everything that they're doing, this is going to satisfy the SEC and the Nasdaq. I don't know. Curious what everybody else thinks, but I did mention to Pal Group private members, we were talking as well about this, but I mentioned in the Pal Group private community, I said perhaps I put the same thing, and then I said, remember Sebastian St. Louis always talked about SPVs, and then this is something that I found as well. Canopy Growth Corporation is proposing an amendment to introduce a new class of exchangeable shares, allowing common shareholders to convert their holdings into these non-voting shares and vice versa. So again, it shouldn't be dilutionary because you're exchanging one share for the other, right? So it's the same amount of shares, and it's unlimited because you can exchange as many as you want. Let's say you hold 1,000 shares, well, you can do them all. If you own 100,000 shares, you can do them all. If you own 1,000,000 shares, you can trade them all, right? There's no limit, and you're exchanging one for one, so it shouldn't be dilution. Shareholders will vote on this amendment at the special meeting and special resolution scheduled for April 12, 2024. If approved, the conversion process will be accessible through the company's website, through Canopy's website, and require a notice of conversion to be submitted to the transfer agent. So I assume that's the broker, right? Like if you're using Schwab or TD or RBC or whatever, maybe I think that's what they mean. So a non-voting stock example. For example, Alphabet, the company formerly known as Google, in April 2014 split its stock into three classes of shares to preserve the control of founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Class A, GOOGL shares are held by regular investors with regular voting rights. A summary of class structures. So Class A, held by a regular investor with regular voting rights, GOOGL. Class B, held by founders with 10 times the voting power of Class A shares. And Class C, no voting rights, typically held by employees and some Class A stockholders, so GOOG. So maybe the shares will trade on the Nasdaq. I honestly don't know, or maybe the TSX, but I guess we'll find out soon enough is what I said. And then I said, we need to do more POW interviews because these are some of the tough questions that I would be asking. And, I've seen, there's a video, if I scroll down here, I posted one with BNN. He interviewed David Klein. And all he said was, I know it's a complex structure, this Canopy USA and exchangeable shares. Ask the difficult questions. Ask the questions that we want to know. Is it going to change on the trade on the Nasdaq? Or are they going to trade on the TSX? I'm so sick of these softball questions. They're just playing t-ball, just setting it up for them perfectly. And it's you're not really telling us anything that we want to know. So, and there's a reason why, a lot of these companies don't want to come on my channel for interviews is because they know I'm going to ask them the hard questions. And, a lot of people send them questions beforehand and I like to just ask them on the fly. And if they don't want to answer, they don't have to answer, right? But at least we'll see their facial reaction or something like that, right? And it's kind of funny watching them squirm sometimes. But, when I did an interview with Hexo, CEO and CFO, all these other people who are interviewing them are never asked them about the Fortune 500 partner that you said you had, right? And then, one of the first things that I was going to ask was, I waited a little bit into the interview, but, I was making damn sure that I was asking them about the Fortune 500 partner. I didn't care how uncomfortable they got, right? So we need more interviews like that where, you're not just playing t-ball, setting them up these softball questions. And so hopefully we can get, well, I guess we'll probably find out way before I ever get, David or Canopy on for an interview, but I know interviews are becoming more and more popular. And like I said, if you go to the YouTube channel, click on community, scroll down, I'm doing a giveaway. And on that video, all you'd have to do is drop a comment on there. And I actually interviewed John Keeber, the CEO of Nevis Brands. It's the #1 beverage brand in the U.S. In terms of MJ Beverages. And I talk about their 2023 earnings, U.S. reform and international expansion, and even more. And a lot of people were talking about that was a really great interview. And I agree. It was a fantastic conversation. So, but again, I didn't, I don't play t-ball. I asked the difficult questions. But CGC was a daily bull flag, and then we'll jump into the chat here in a moment. We'll get everybody's thoughts and opinions. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me, and what your thoughts are. But we had the low here, the high of the bounce. We held that 0.32 fib pretty much to perfection. And then once we broke the high of the bounce there at 7.99, that confirmed the daily bull flag. And then you take your measured move here on CGC from the low to the high, move it out to your 0.382 fib, and it says we were targeting about 11.04. And we actually exceeded that slightly. We had 11.57. So we'll just do a quick update in terms of the technicals here. We could still see an EMA 12 and 26 bull cross as well, which would be the first time since way back when in October 2020. Like, that is a long time, folks. It has now been 1,253 days or 179 weeks since we've seen a weekly EMA 12 and 26 bull cross. And look what happened the last time that happened. Price went from, well, this is factoring in post-split, but price went from about 170, 180 bucks all the way up to 562, right? But you got to divide that by 10 because they did a 1 for 10 reverse split. So that's actually like $56, right? So, and we're seeing record volume here on the Nasdaq as well. So this is great to see. But we're seeing that weekly EMA 12 and 26 bull cross, and we still need to confirm a monthly uptrend as the next step. But we're getting close. We're creating enough room here for the monthly higher low to form, but not a ton of room, I guess. Let's see. Oh yeah, we got a ton of room. Yeah, we got 60%. So if we started to consolidate next month, potentially, and it might not even, right? We could just keep running here. If we get rescheduling news here anytime, and then percent of excise tax switch to in Canada, like, this is where things can get pretty nutty, right? And we got no resistance on the monthly time frame until 1920. We're bumping our head rate at EMA 12 there at 1086, and we have no resistance after that price action at 1920 until EMA 26 at 3740. And if we bring up like GTBIF and some of the US names, we're trending above the EMA 26. And you might be like, okay, well, that's just Green Thumb. What about, other names? What about Trulieve, right? Okay, let's bring up Trulieve. It's above its EMA 26. Okay, let's take a look at MSOS. It's very close to its EMA 26. So High Tide. What are the other names in Canada doing? Oh, look at that, above its EMA 26. So if CGC were to do something similar, then we'd be at $37, right? So this is where things can get pretty nutty in a hurry, and this is what they do, right? They get you FOMOing in and try to get you to, to question yourself and not know what to do, right? You might have bought it at $3, $4, sold it, 6 or 7, and you thought you were a genius, and now it's at 10, 11 bucks, and you're feeling FOMO if you're missing out like you wouldn't believe, right? And then it's just, it's like that entry that you wanted again never comes, and then you end up FOMOing in, and then a big 10, 20%, maybe even 30% pullback comes, right? Like, just look at the daily time frame here. From the low there, we were at 276, and then in 10 trading days, we were up almost 300%, 263%, and then we pulled back almost 30% in 2 days, right? So yeah, this is what happens. But we're in a strong daily uptrend. The most important support here short term is 893, and then we're looking at 725. In terms of the weekly time frame, we still need to change the weekly trend as well. We're no longer in a weekly downtrend, but we need that higher low and higher high, and record weekly volume is looking good, and then the EMA 12 and 26 bull cross on deck as well, looking like we could see more upside. And like I said, if we get weakness in the broader market, that's going to be headwinds. But if we get any kind of rescheduling decision, safe banking's gaining traction, if we see a percent excise tax switched here in Canada, which we should find out soon. April 16th is the federal budget here in Canada. So if we go to videos on the channel, scroll down, and I posted a video about that as well. It was a save the date video right here. April 16th, save the date, federal budget. Could we potentially see an excise tax switch then? So that is what, a week away? Yeah, a week from Tuesday. So we'll see. We're blasting off here on the stochastic and the MACD as well on the weekly time frame, well above the 10-week moving average. We're also above the 50 weekly, and we're trending back to our 100. So that is sitting at $18. And then we had price action resistance at 19. So we could be going up to like 17, 18 bucks here before we really see a meaningful pullback and monthly higher low, and then a monthly trend change attempt, because the more room we allow, the more bounce we get and more upside we get, the more room we have to form that monthly higher low. So it's all good. But yeah, again, what are other names in the space doing? GTBIF getting very close to its 200 weekly. What's High Tide doing? Very close to its 200 weekly. Okay, what if we bring up Cureleaf? Getting pretty close to its. So what if CGC were to get to its 200 weekly? We'd be at $102. And that's not an all-time high, because that's factoring in post-split, right? It's more like 10 bucks. So this is going to be, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, this is the time where things get pretty nutty, and we're also gearing up for the first golden cross with the 50-day moving average below the 200-day moving average for the first time in what? since October 2020, I think. Yep. So that was the last time as well. So same thing as the weekly EMA 12 and 26 bull cross, so over 1,200 days. And again, price went from about $180 all the way up to that 560. And then we had the death cross with the 50 coming down through the 200. Price went from about 243 all the way down to 2 something. And now we're gearing up again for the first golden cross since October 2020. All right, jumping into the chat here. I'm trying to find Tilray revenue versus Sundial, and I see that Sundial market cap to revenue is lower than Tilray's. Can you help me understand? Might have to do that in another video, Sam. I'm not trying to dodge the question. I'm trying to keep this specific to the topic at hand today, and I don't have a whole lot of time. And one comment that I get a lot is that the live streams go pretty long, and that's generally because sometimes people come on and start talking about crypto in an MJ video. So I'm just going to try to keep it. Maybe we'll do that on the next video or live stream. You will message Martin. Mr. Mankey. Oh, you mean that Martin Lucas guy? Oh yeah, I think, was it you that said he wanted to interview me or something? Martin, is it this guy here? Yeah, I think it's this guy here, right? Marcus, yeah. I never really heard of him before, but I think he did a video on Tilray, which is probably why you're, yeah. I mean, I don't have his contact information. If you want to send it to me, I guess I could reach out to him. But if he wants to interview me, I would assume he would just go to powgroup.ca or pursuitofwealthgroup.com and email me or fill out the contact form. All he has to do, like I said, just go to pursuitofwealthgroup.com or powgroup.ca, and then there's a contact option here. You can fill out the contact or just email me. And if he wants to interview me, then yeah, he can just send me an email. If this is a good thing, why didn't other companies, Tilray, ACB, SNDL, do what CDC does? Well, it hasn't even been approved yet, right? The vote is on April 12th, and this is a novel structure, meaning it hasn't been done before. So, they've got a lot of pushback from the SEC, and, they're trying to make the Nasdaq happy as well and comply with all these laws. So, we'll see. Like, I think once it does successfully complete it, if it does, sure it will, then we might see other companies follow suit. Hello from Montreal. Welcome. Thanks for joining the stream. If it's like Google stocks, CDC should keep the prices of 2 stocks the same. If it's not, it's just dilution of stocks. Well, again, if you exchange your shares, you're exchanging 1 for 1. So if you had 10,000 regular shares and then you convert it into the exchangeable shares of the different new class of shares, it's still the same amount of shares, right? Because you're offloading that 10,000 into the old one into the new. So it shouldn't be any dilution. But the only thing is Google stock isn't trading a Schedule 1 drug, right? So I don't know if it's going to trade on the TSX or the Nasdaq or what. I really don't know. I would assume it's going to be on the TSX. That would be my first inclination, right? But who knows? Maybe since it's a holdings company and it's a private company and they're reporting on an equity basis, maybe they're allowed to have it on the US exchange. I don't know. If it does, then that's going to be huge because essentially you're going to have like acreage on the Nasdaq, right? So this is going to be interesting. And again, MSOs will become LPs and LPs will become MSOs. I've said that multiple times. And right after I made that video a couple of weeks ago, Curaleaf bought Northern Green Canada, an operator in Canada. So essentially now they're in Germany and Canada, and they're not even listed on the Nasdaq or US major exchange yet. And then Canopy is looking to get acreage, and TerraSen, I think they have like a 17% stake in them, or not sure if it changed, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. And then we'll get into the mega merger phase, like the blue chip phase, right? And the blue chip phase will only ever happen once the U.S. legalizes at the federal level, whether it be through Congress, through legislation, or whether it be through descheduling from the Controlled Substances Act. And then after that, it's probably going to take 5 years before the blue chip phase. Blue chip just means, the companies that are the leaders in the space, like the Amazons. Like no one knew Amazon was going to be Amazon in the .com days, but that wasn't the blue chip phase, right? Now we're blue chip status, right? Your Amazon, your Apples, your Facebook, those are, the leaders in the space, right? So eventually, I think Tilray, maybe even Canopy, maybe even Curaleaf will all be, the blue chip ones. And they'll be both Canadian and U.S. producers, right? They'll be MSOs and LPs and vice versa. But the blue chip phase will only come about 5 years after the U.S. legalizes it at the federal level, in my opinion. And then we could see mega mergers, like maybe, well, CGC has acreage, but maybe, they even merge with like Cresco or something, or, Curaleaf and Tilray. Like they have very similar businesses. So we'll see. If DEA reschedules to 3, does that mean Tilray will have benefit to sell any in the U.S.? No, it doesn't really benefit Tilray any because they don't have any MJ products in the U.S., right? Like it's only on the psychoactive component, so they don't have any psychoactive. I try not to say that word because YouTube flags it, but they have this psychoactive component. They don't have any products, Tilray, right? They have the hemp business in the U.S. and their beverage brands, but they don't have any psychoactive components and products in the U.S., which is what what 280E taxes, right? So no, it won't have any direct impact on Tilray immediately. How come BZAM still didn't claim bankruptcy? Well, they're going through like a restructuring process. But yeah, not too sure on that one. All of this complexity, I think, will cause a decrease in CGC stock, especially because people will have to take their shares out of CGC to invest in CGC USA if they're interested. Well, it's just going to be like you just have to go to the company website and then request it through the transfer agent and your broker, I believe. I don't think it should be that difficult. I don't know if it's going to create a decrease because, essentially they're going to become a multi-state operator, right? They're going to acquire acreage, and acreage is big in Ohio, Pennsylvania, which we know Pennsylvania could have adult use soon, and Ohio is the 24th state to do so, and then Florida coming online as well. So I don't know, and then they have TerraSand as well. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, we are running hot, but if we get rescheduling news, CGC could easily go up another 100%, and all MJ really. Thoughts on my above comment? Yeah, I just comment on that. I think financials of High Tide are tremendous. Maybe is that what you mean? Compared to all the short-term, low float, market cap, but excellent revenue and any debt, especially since April 16th catalyst thoughts. Yeah, I agree. Trying to not dodge that question, but trying to keep it on the topic of Canopy. Tremendous. Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. Google adjusts the prices of A and C equally to within 1%. Will CGC do that? That's a good question. Like, I would assume. Again, this is so new to me too. Like, it's not very, and this is what they do, right? Like, this is why why a lot of people don't succeed in financial markets, because they make it so freaking complicated, right? And like, if you ever tune into like a Senate hearing or a House committee hearing or something like that in the U.S., or even like the Florida hearing when they were talking about adult use and whatnot, they drag it on like 4 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours. And it's just the most like boring thing. And like, it all has to do with like the legalese and the verbiage that they use. And like one word can drastically change the outcome of a certain scenario, right? So just the verbiage of the way it's written by these lawyers. So it's intentionally vague and confusing and boring because they don't want you to succeed, right? They want the Wall Street banks to succeed. Why do you think they're creating this in the first place? It's to benefit the Constellation Brands and the Wall Street banks, right? It's so that they can remove the moat from these Canadian LPs. Again, I've said for many, many years, what does Constellation Brands know that we don't know? Do we retail investors think we're smarter than Constellation Brands, $100 billion company, I think, and maker of Corona? Like, yeah, let's just Yahoo Finance Constellation Brands. What is their market cap? 48 billion. So do we retail investors with most of our net worth are probably, I would guess, under $1 million. So most of us don't have $1 million to our name, and these guys have and gals have 48.5 billion. Do we think we're smarter than them? So, when I hear, retail investors like lamenting on X or Twitter or whatever, and like saying that, Canopy garbage and all this stuff, it's like, well, there's a reason why they're investing in them, right? And they probably seen this coming, and it's probably all in cohort, like everybody's in cahoots together, right? And it's just the financial banks and the JP Morgans, the Morgan Sachs, the Wall Street banks and institutions all working together to try to shaft all of us, right? And for all the retail investors that have been selling Canopy down 99% from all-time highs, who's buying it? Think about that. Who's buying all of the retail shares when all retail is capitulated and has left Canopy? I can't tell you how many people commented on my videos and said, Canopy's now at $10, $11. If I only would have held and not sold the all-time low, and who were buying those shares, right? It was the institutional capital, right? So, I just question anybody who's on social media and they're saying that they're a retail investor, unless they have a couple $1 billion to their name. I wouldn't trust them because, again, what does Constellation Brands know that we don't know? A lot. And then why are they investing in Canopy? Why is there no big companies investing in the U.S. names, right? We got Altria with Kronos. You got British American Tobacco with Organogram. You've got Imperial Brands with Oxy. You've got Constellation Brands with Canopy. What's the trend here, right? LPs, big tobacco, big alcohol. So there's got to be more that meets the eye, right? There's going to be. Look at my MJ portfolio 2024 with percentage breakdown and holding update. I have a mix of both: producers in the U.S. and Canada, retailers in the U.S. and Canada, and ETFs. Right? I'm agnostic. I don't care. I'm not a maximalist or a tribal person of any one company. Right? I want them all to succeed, and I own like 16 different MJ stocks. Right? So if they don't do that, CGC is doing something crazy right now. Yeah, I mean, it should trade. It should be pegged, I would think, right? It'd have to be. You think the stock will rally until the 12th vote or dip? Most likely. Excuse me. It's a good question. Like I said, we're gearing up for an EMA 12 and 26 bull cross here on the weekly time frame, which means we could still see more upside. We're cooling down the daily RSI, which is good to see, and we're not yet weekly overbought. And we have no weekly resistance until 1920 and no monthly resistance until 1920. And on the day, we have barely any daily resistance either. So on the daily time frame, we have 1157, the high of Thursday. Yeah, high of Thursday, and then nothing until 1568, and then 1920. So this is what happens when you have a lack of resistance. That's why it's always about support and resistance. And we're in a clear daily uptrend. So as long as we hold 893 into next week, we're just fine. But ultimately, 725 must hold. So we lose 725, we start weekly consolidation, and we could pull back to around 6 and back test those EMAs, look for a weekly higher low, and then try to change the weekly trend. We still need the higher low and higher high to give us a weekly uptrend. We're no longer in a weekly downtrend because we broke this lower high, lower low pattern, but we still need the higher low and higher high. But like I said, bulls want as much room as possible to form that weekly higher low, which is looking very, very good at the moment. But it's all, in my important, the most important is 725. I mean, even if we were to pull back from current levels to 725, that's almost another 30% pullback. But we just did that the other day, and then we shot up, we pulled back like 28%, and then we went another 60 in a few days, right? So volatility city here, and it's anybody's guess at this point. But we're still in an hourly downtrend here as well. So we had 1037 resistance, and we had 1035, so essentially a double top. And we could see an EMA 12 and 26 bear cross. So, yeah, I mean, SPY was a little bit weak as well, showing some, but right now it's a potential hourly bull flag on the S&P 500. So this could be some tailwinds. We pulled back a little bit more than the 0.382 fib, but if you don't factor in that lower wick there, we could be seeing an hourly bull flag here on SPY, which would bring us to around 525. But I think it's mostly going to depend on obviously any news coming out or anything like that, but we have to watch the S&P 500 as well. It's looking like the S&P 500 could be seeing more downside and daily oversold because we haven't been daily oversold since October, and we're gearing up for an EMA 12 and 26 bear cross on SPY. So I think we have to really watch the S&P 500 because if it starts to lose the low here at 512, then we're more than likely going to see this EMA 12 and 26 bear cross, which would also be the first time since September. And then more than likely going to daily oversold, and that'll be headwinds. Unless we get some kind of news catalyst. But yeah, I would probably lean to maybe a little bit more upside on CGC and then some pullback into Friday. And then maybe after Friday, we start to continue higher where what I'd be looking at. And we have a golden cross coming up over the next couple of weeks by the looks of it as well, right? So years, let's just go to 2. Yeah. So 471, the 50-day, and 555, the 200-day. So we still got some room to go before we see those cross, but it could be weeks away. And just because it crosses bullish and see the golden cross doesn't mean we're going to the moon like that day, right? Sometimes it can take a week or two after the cross happens, or sometimes it crosses and then we come back, we back test it, and then we rip, right? But again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would think that we might see a little bit more upside into next week. So tomorrow, and then we see a pretty big pullback and then a weekly higher low into Friday. But more than likely set up for a weekly inside bar into next week. And this weekly inside bar is a huge range, right? It's like 36%. So the high at 1157 and the low at 725. So we're more than likely just going to tighten up in an equilibrium and inside bar here this week. So it's probably going to be a choppy week. But those are the most important resistance and supports. Break 1157, we continue the weekly bounce for the 4th week in a row. Break 725, we start weekly consolidation, and we look for a weekly higher low somewhere around that $6 level, and then back test weekly EMA 12, and then that'll give us a higher low. And then if we get a higher high, we're in a weekly uptrend. Then we zoom out the monthly and look for the monthly higher low to form. And if you're looking for an entry, maybe if you're a little bit more aggressive, maybe you want to wait for a weekly higher low around $6, right? If you're very conservative, maybe you want to wait for a monthly higher low, but keep in mind that we could go all the way to like $15 or $20 on the monthly time frame and then pull back for a monthly higher low, which would mean you'd probably be entering on a monthly higher low around $15 or $12, right? Which would be higher than we are now. So you have to, kind of assess your level of risk and how much exposure you have. If you don't have any shares, then maybe you want to be a little bit more aggressive. But again, not financial advice. I'll never tell you what to do, what to buy, sell, or hold, but hopefully that helps. Me and my friend just jumped on the MJ train. Been enjoying your content a lot. Thank you very much, Cheeky Changa. I love the handle. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it goes both ways, my friend. Thanks very much for your comment and support, as always. Really do appreciate it. Love each and every one of you supporting me along the way. And my commitment to each and every one of you is I'll be making videos as long as I'm breathing air. So covering the medicine of the future and best industry in the world with the best people. But yeah, absolutely. If you're just jumping on the MJ train now, wow, you're in for a hell of a ride. Train has left the station, that's for sure. And a lot of people have been getting investor fatigue and absolutely wrecked by dilution and 80 to 90% pullbacks and just years and years and years of bear market, right? This is what they do, right? They did the same thing with crypto. They did the same thing with the tech companies back in the dot-com days. Amazon dropped 95% after the dot-com boom and then went on to create, generational wealth for many, many generations, right? So I'm not saying MJ is going to be to the degree of Amazon, but percentage-wise, we should see similar types of gains over 5, 10, 20 years. All-time high for Oxley is 270 US. Yeah, I was loading up around a penny. Just imagine if it goes back to $1 or $2, $3. It's just nuts to think about. Can you upload this live video on YouTube? If you upload it on YouTube, foreigners can watch it in subtitles later. Well, it gets uploaded. I think the live stream videos, it just takes a while. That happened before when I did the interview with Hexo CEO. Everybody was like, how come there's no subtitles? I think it just takes a while for it to process. And then I think like after like 4 or 5 days or like a week or so, you can see the subtitles. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Mr. Mackey says, yeah, okay, cool. Smoking baby Jeters, and they are really good. Oh, I've never had it. Thanks for sharing. I'm a retail investor, and what does Imperial Brands know? Yeah, exactly, right? Imperial Brands just converted 123 million into shares, most likely at 81 cents. That's very promising. Yeah, definitely a vote of confidence, right, in Oxley. So, exactly. Me too. Loaded almost $1 million at 1 cent. Nice, Scott. That's awesome. What is your opinion on Flora growth? I don't really have an opinion on that one, Humberto, to be completely honest with you. It's not really one I follow closely. I mean, it's on my radar, but not one I follow closely. All right, going to wrap it up. That's pretty much it in terms of questions and comments. That was fun. Hopefully it was informative and helpful. And yeah, if you're viewing this after the fact, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me. I always encourage thoughtful discourse, even if we don't agree. We can still be friends, and I'll be the first to admit when I don't know something, and I'm not going to pretend like I do. If I don't know, I'll tell everybody, and I'll stay in my lane, and I'll stick to what I'm good at, right? And when I'm confident, I'll tell everybody that I'm confident. When I'm not confident, or when I don't know, I'll say that I don't know. And the truth will set us free. And that's why I like coming on here as well, is because we can, as a community, as retail investors, all these other channels say they're for the retail investor and stuff, right? But we know that they're getting paid by clients, or they're getting some sort of financial incentive, or they're carrying some narrative, or they come from like a history of some kind of like financial company or background, and most of them are just plants, and they never ask any of the difficult questions, right? Like the BNNs and especially the mainstream media ones. They just, and even some of the the not so mainstream ones, they just play t-ball. They set them up with all these softball questions. And, they never get asked any of the difficult questions, the ones that we actually want to know. So that's what I'm going to continue to do on my channel, is to challenge the status quo and to get into that uncomfortable, get them out of their comfort zone and ask the difficult questions, right? And even if they don't want to respond, maybe we can see some sort of facial expression or some tone, or, you know, it's very, it can all be very telling, right? Great stream. Enjoying, bro. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining. And again, if you're viewing this after the fact, let me know your thoughts and opinions. And as a community, we'll try to figure this out. But like I said, we're probably just going to find out in a week or two after the vote on Friday. We'll probably find out shortly after that how it's all going to be structured. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But I'm pretty sure we're hitting the nail on the head, and we're right over the target. All right. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend, everybody. It's Rod with Pow Group. Thanks again for joining us in the pursuit of wealth, and we'll see you on the next video.